The wind howled through the empty streets as Gavin Daniels, the billionaire entrepreneur and single father, stood frozen in the middle of the park. His heart hammered against his chest, his eyes wide in disbelief. There, across the playground, was his 4-year-old daughter, Ellie, sitting on a stranger's lap. But it wasn't the stranger's face that stopped him in his tracks. It was the soft whisper he heard as he drew closer, a whisper so gentle, so haunting, that it seemed to cut through the sharp cold air like a blade. The words were simple, yet powerful. "She's scared, you know. She doesn't want to lose you again." Gavin had always thought he had everything under control, an empire at his fingertips, a plush house in the city's richest neighborhood, and a little girl who had everything a child could ever want. But nothing could fill the hollow space inside him. Nothing could quiet the constant hum of failure that buzzed in his mind. It was an hour before the incident at the park, and Gavin was locked in his office at his mansion, his eyes scanning through a mountain of paperwork. He'd been too busy for Ellie lately. He'd been too busy for everything, really. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had more wealth than he could ever spend, yet he felt like the poorest man in the world. Ever since his wife, Sarah, had left, taking Ellie with her, Gavin had buried himself in work. She'd told him, just before walking out the door with their daughter, that he was always too consumed by his business, too focused on the next deal, the next success. She said he was losing them, but he'd been too proud to listen. Ellie had been 5 then, she was 4 now, and he had no idea how much time had slipped away. "Where did you go, baby girl?" Gavin whispered to himself as he stood in the middle of his office, staring at a picture of Ellie from her last birthday. Her smile was brighter than any of his accomplishments. The sounds of the city outside his window felt distant, foreign, almost like a dream. He hadn't been able to shake the feeling that, somewhere, somehow, his life had stopped making sense. The day he decided to make amends, to try and patch things up with Ellie, he received a call from his ex-wife. She was running late, an opportunity she couldn't miss. But Ellie needed him. She'd been asking for her dad lately, asking why he never picked up the phone. That's why Gavin decided to take her to the park. He thought it would be simple. He would pick her up, they'd play, and he could show her he was still there, even if his actions had said otherwise. However, what he found in the park was not the father-daughter moment he had imagined. It was cold outside, a winter chill biting at Gavin's skin as he walked through the park. Ellie wasn't far off. He could see her red jacket through the haze of falling snowflakes. But she wasn't alone. His first instinct was to rush forward, to scream, to shout, but something inside him stopped. A feeling, a gut instinct, told him to stay still. The woman holding Ellie was unfamiliar, her face soft but determined. She looked like someone who had seen life's rough edges, but her eyes, there was a quiet strength in them, something that caught Gavin's attention. She wasn't threatening. She wasn't doing anything wrong, but his protective father instinct flared. He started to step forward, but then he heard it, a whisper, so soft and gentle that it was barely audible above the wind. The woman leaned close to Ellie, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. Ellie looked up, her big eyes filled with confusion and fear. The woman whispered something in her ear, and for a moment, Ellie's expression shifted from fear to recognition. It was as if the woman knew something about Ellie, something that connected with her on a deep, personal level. Gavin could see his daughter's shoulders relax. For the first time in months, her lips curved upward into a smile, genuine, not forced. His breath hitched. He moved closer, trying not to startle either of them. The woman noticed him and smiled, though there was something almost mournful in her expression. "She's scared, you know," the woman said quietly. "She doesn't want to lose you again." Gavin froze. His heart seemed to stop in that moment. Ellie didn't want to lose him? He thought she had forgotten him, or worse, hated him for abandoning her. But the look in Ellie's eyes, that small spark of trust, shattered his self-deprecating thoughts. The woman gently placed Ellie down on her feet and stood up, moving to leave. But before she did, she looked back at Gavin, her gaze piercing through the protective walls he'd built around himself. "Sometimes," she said softly, "we need to be reminded that we don't have to be perfect to be loved. You just have to show up. She's waiting for you to show up." And with that, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Gavin stood there, utterly stunned. It wasn't the words themselves that moved him. It was the gentle way she had approached him, the quiet wisdom behind her actions. Ellie's eyes followed her as the woman left, but she didn't cry or call out. She simply took her father's hand and held it, as if that was all she needed. Moral of the story. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can heal the deepest wounds. Show up for the people you love, even when you feel you have nothing left to give.